Over the last few years, we have seen concerted action to tackle poverty and inequality across our planet. The international community came together to agree on the Millennium Development Goals to spread prosperity, improve health, and put our world on a path towards sustainability. But while in many areas we have seen progress, climate change threatens to reverse these improvements and dash our hopes for a fairer and sustainable world. We are now seeing a growing awareness of the threats of climate change and need to reduce emissions of the heat-trapping gases that are causing it. Science tells us that preventing the most severe impact of climate change needs action now to cut greenhouse gas emissions by around 80% by 2050. But even this radical action will not prevent a rise in global temperatures, increase in sea levels, and frequency of severe droughts and storms over the next decades. Human activity has already altered our atmosphere. Climate change is not a future threat. It is already happening and is having a damaging impact on the lives of millions of people. So we need to take steps now to manage the changes on the way and prepare for the unavoidable changes ahead. In this tour, I will take you around the globe to meet the people already struggling with the impact of climate variability and change on their lives. We will explore the implications of continued and accelerated changes in weather patterns and learn what steps are needed to adapt to living in a changing climate. Over the last 100 years, global average temperatures have risen almost 1 degree centigrade. The effects are already being felt around the world. As far back as 2002, the World Health Organization estimated that globally 150,000 people were dying each year as a result of climate change. In the map shown here, the red and orange areas indicate where most of these deaths are occurring. This year, the Global Humanitarian Forum, or GHF, led a study that concluded the estimated annual deaths due to climate change could now be double this estimate. The greatest burden of climate change has been primarily felt by the poor in the less developed regions of the world. But as our climate continues to change, it will affect everyone. For if global warming continues unabated, the experts say we could expect temperatures to increase by as much as another 2 degrees Celsius over the next few decades, and by twice this amount by the end of the century. Over the short term, we are likely to experience the effects of these changes through increases in extreme weather-related events, such as the 2003 European heat wave. This killed over 30,000 people and was the hottest temperature on record in Europe. By mid-century, without action to cut emissions, the extreme temperatures experienced in the summer of 2003 are expected to be the norm in much of Europe. While many of the most severe impacts in the future can be avoided by deep reductions in greenhouse gases through the provision of clean and renewable energy, substantial continued climate change is unavoidable. We have already altered the makeup of our atmosphere, and this will continue until deep cuts in emissions kick in. We must prepare now for the impact of these changes. Some 9 million people will go hungry today, and over 1 billion live on less than $1 per day. But without significant actions, population growth and climate change will continue to drive these numbers up. Rising temperatures are already leading to shortened growing seasons in some regions and affecting where crops can be grown successfully. In much of the developed world, climate projections indicate that the area of land suitable for cereal production is likely to increase. In contrast, most less developed nations, countries which already suffer from lack of food, will see a reduction in the amount of land suitable to grow basic grains. Rising temperatures and decreasing access to water will cut yields in many regions. Within the next decade alone, yields in some African nations could be reduced by as much as 50%. To reduce the impact of climate change on food security over the coming decades, we need in the short term to help the farmers and countries most affected to adapt. Some adaptation strategies are relatively quick and inexpensive to implement, such as shifting the timing of planting or switching crop varieties. But others, often the most effective in the long run, will need considerable extra time and funding. These include the research and development of new crop varieties, the expansion of irrigation, and the improvement of soil quality. These are the types of issues we are urgently addressing at the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA. At AGRA, we work with small farmers and public and private institutions to increase productivity in a sustainable way. So we are working with communities to rebuild depleted, erosion-prone soil, conserve crop biodiversity, and efficiently use limited water supply. Average sea level is expected to rise as much as 1 meter or more over the coming century. But there are fears that sustained warming of 2 to 3 degrees could spark the destabilization of the ice sheets. This could eventually see sea levels rising by anything between 3 to 12 meters. These projections are of very real concern to the populations in places like Bangladesh and Tuvalu, where much of the land stands at most 1 meter above sea level. Here you can see the devastating implication of a 4-meter sea level rise, which would inundate virtually all of the Bangladesh region. These communities are already struggling to cope with frequent floods and cyclones. In Bangladesh alone, research for the GHF found that nearly 70 million people have been affected over the last 8 years by tropical cyclones and flooding. Faced with these increasing threats to infrastructure, agriculture, and health, coastal communities are beginning to put in place measures to help them adapt. For example, critical to combating increasing weather-related threats is better early warning and rapid response systems. In Bangladesh, engineers at the Center for Environmental and Geographical Information Services are developing storm early warning systems that can be sent out via text message to cell phones, which are now widespread even in remote villages. These are the sort of practical measures which need the support of the international community. Over the last 30 years, it has been estimated that the area of land which has experienced severe drought has nearly doubled. This puts increased pressure on farmers, human health, and ecosystems alike. Here, the areas in red show where drought has been most severe between the 1870s and 2000. The blues and purples on this map show increased runoff over the coming century through to the 2080s, while the reds and oranges show decreased water runoff. If we continue our high emissions path, as much as 2/3 of the water basins across the globe are expected to experience increased water stress by mid-century. On this map, the green areas indicate where water availability is expected to increase, and red areas where reductions in water availability are predicted. At the same time, water-stressed regions will be further aggravated by increased demand from a growing population. Among the most vulnerable regions are those where water supply is currently provided largely through melting snow or ice. As temperatures rise, more precipitation will fall as rain instead of snow, and the snow that does fall will melt earlier in the spring. The result will be a decline in river flows and water supply during the summer and autumn when demand is highest. Given that some 1/6 of the Earth's population relies on glaciers and seasonal snowpacks for their water supply, the scale and severity of the threat to everyday life is great. As well as decisive action to cut greenhouse gas emissions, we need to help communities and countries prepare for the changes in water supply which can't be avoided. Rising temperatures and changing precipitation patterns are having an impact on health challenges. One growing threat is the spread of infectious diseases to new areas and new populations. Watch as this animation illustrates the potential expansion from today to the 2080s of lands with climate suitable for dengue fever transmission. To address the rising risk from climate-sensitive disease such as dengue, malaria, and Rift Valley fever, we need the climate experts to work together with the public health community. Weather forecasts can provide important early warning of diseases and enable steps to be taken to protect populations. Effective early warning of health and other risks needs the comprehensive and accurate monitoring of climate and weather. But in many regions of the developing world, weather and other on-the-ground monitoring systems are limited. For this reason, the GHF initiated the Weather Info for All program to install 5,000 automatic weather stations across the African continent. They will send raw weather data to national meteorological services who, in partnership with wireless service providers, can deliver more accurate forecasts and early warnings to health workers, farmers, fishermen, and local communities. The challenges ahead of us are large and the stakes are high. Climate change is a fundamental threat to our individual and human security. It is also a question of justice. The world's poorest populations, who are contributing least to causing the problem, are suffering the most. We need a global contract to protect the lives and livelihoods of people in all regions of the world. To avoid the most severe impacts of climate change, we must reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. We must also take the steps needed to protect people, communities, and economies from the unavoidable changes in our climate. Wealthier countries must help the least developed nations through the transfer of funds, technology, and knowledge. We need to harness our incredible ingenuity across the globe and remember that building a sustainable and fairer world will also bring a wealth of opportunities. All this will need strong collaboration and cooperation right across our global society. I have been working on the Tick, Tick, Tick and Time for Climate Justice campaign. We all need to raise awareness about what is at stake, the need for urgent action, and the vital importance of everyone getting involved. The earth does not belong to one generation. Yet our decisions and actions today will have an impact on our planet long beyond the lives of our children and grandchildren. We dare not let future generations down, but we should also have confidence that together we can rise to the challenge.